Well, if it isn't my favorite person in the whole wide world, you, and your beautiful face. Oh, it's just so sexy. I mean, I just want to grab it, possibly do all sorts of terrible things. You're listening to the NeverFap Deluxe Daily. Here's our theme tune. Apologies for that sexual aggression, which, I started the show with. Some people like it. Others are like, I'm going to call the police. Watch out! He's coming at you. He's holding a knife, a Reed signature knife, of course, used for cutting children's faces. No, thank you for listening. My name is Julius Reed. The NeverFap Deluxe Daily is what you're listening to. If you're thinking this is like that other podcast that's like probably got millions of listeners, well, you've come to the wrong place. This is strictly a population zero zone. We've got like no listeners, but maybe you're listening and you're thinking, oh, I'm all special and stuff. Well, you're not. You should probably kill yourself. Obviously, I should also stop putting you down. Today's episode, we're talking about how you can feel empowered about your recovery. But before then, we've got heaps of segments. Actually, we've just got one segment. That segment's called The Checkup! The Checkup! The Checkup! Ba-da-ba-da! Yes. Today's, every checkup, I check up on you. Daddy Dr. Reed will cradle you into health and care and all sorts of weird stuff like that. How are you doing today? How are you coping? Are you doing okay? Maybe you just found out you have cancer. I'd like to apologize then, because there's nothing I can do. I mean, I'm no cancer surgeon or whatever it is they treat cancer. I mean, blast you with the chemo. That's sexy as well. Of course, we shouldn't sexualize people who are, going through cancer. They're going through a hard time. Alrighty then, this is a weird episode already. Have you meditated today? Meditation obviously helps with a lot of things, helping you remain calm and aware of your behaviors, because if you're doing that, then you're going to be on top of things, you're going to be a champion, and I won't sexually molest you. So that's my promise. If you look after your mental health, Daddy Reed's not going to come and attack you. But if you're struggling with your mental health, I'm going to go over there, do some things, probably go to jail for a few months. Sort of go out and bail. Attack you again. That's the general pattern. At least here in Australia, a land of convicts and all sorts of drudgery. Meditation important. Exercise also very important. If you're not exercising, what are you doing? You're probably gaining on the pounds, or in the Western world, the true Western world, the British, we say kilograms because we're normal. Yes, exercise is very important. What are you going to do differently? That's also something for you to think about. How are you going to change it up? And if your strategy is not working for you, what are you going to do to make it work for you? Maybe that means meditating a bit more. Maybe that means, stop smoking weed. Stopping smoking weed? Stop smoking weed. Yeah, I think that's correct. But yeah, all sorts of things you can do to improve. Healthy coping mechanisms, as described on the website, to help you cope more effectively instead of coping poorly, which, I'm not going to masturbate to that. That's weird. What? Of course, obviously not masturbating to you not coping healthily, but that was a joke. But it's not a joke. The topic! Keeping it on top of it, the thing. Today's topic is how to feel empowered about your recovery. Empowerment, obviously, something it's a nice to have. You don't have to feel empowered in order to recover, because recovery is basically just a process from A to B, iterating constantly on your mental health strategy. But, empowerment can help, and, it can even, I guess it helps to understand what empowerment is, so that next time you're not thinking, okay, so is this true empowerment? Is this true confidence? Or is this me, going through a manic episode? Because as we all know, we have times where we feel like, oh man, I feel great. And then, you're sort of hit with depression hours later. And it's like, oh, well, I mean, was I really empowered? Was I really, all these sorts of things. So that's what we're talking about, how to feel empowered about your recovery. Now, empowerment is actually a very simple concept in the context of recovery. Essentially, all empowerment is having confidence in your own mental health strategy. And that's basically, I guess, what recovery is having a solid mental health strategy. But when you have confidence in your mental health strategy and it being effective, that's how you feel empowered. Put simply, your recovery is only as effective as your mental health routine. So that's why it's so important, and that's why I say, it's about meditating 10 minutes per day, all these these healthy coping mechanisms that I talk about, exercise, refraining from judgment, keeping an open mind, all these sorts of things, these form part of your mental health routine. And if you're not thinking about these things, well, then you're basically leaving your recovery to chance. And this often happens. There are times where we think we're above our mental health routine, or rather the process. A great example is when we think it's okay to be judgmental at times. We're like, that person, what a retard. It makes us feel good temporarily, but then, as I described earlier, you have that sort of depression and the sadness and the confusion which comes afterwards, which is a result of judgment. There's a negative side effect to all these things. That's why they're unhealthy coping mechanisms. That's why distraction is an unhealthy coping mechanism. That's why judgment is so very detrimental to your mental health routine, your mental health. That is basically, you live and die by your routine. So in order to feel empowered, you essentially need to have confidence that the actions and behaviors that you're taking allow you to have control over your mental health. So, confidence isn't just merely a term that's like, I feel confident. Confident is very much about process. If you have a solid process, then you have no reason to doubt. That's a big thing that a lot of people in their recovery struggle with, is doubt in terms of, is what I'm doing working? You have confidence by basically studying things that work. So in my case, I'm recommending you, the listener, not the goat, the listener. And listener's calling in. He says, hello. It was actually a woman, so that I was technically being sexist. That wasn't a woman. I just pressed a button and pretended I was on the phone. That's why it's important to have your routine. I think. I mean, I don't know. I'm just a crazy guy. I've got a gun to my head. I don't know what that achieved, but it felt good for me. Definitely empowerment isn't, inflating your ego or feeling some kind of god. I know a lot of people are like, I felt like a king today, which is nothing wrong with that. But, if you're feeling it from the perspective of ego, you're going to have that crash later. And that was the crash one. This one's the painful one. Mo shinderu. Thank you, whatever that's from. Confidence in your behaviors. If you'd like to learn more about the process and how you can be confident in yourself, you can check out the NeverFap Deluxe website, neverfapdeluxe.com. And that brings us to the end of the topic.
The viewer mail.
The topic. Okay, I messed it up. Coming up next, if you haven't noticed, is the viewer mail.
The viewer mail.
The viewer mail. Thank you, viewer mail. We love the viewer mail here on the show. In fact, we love all the segments, including
the checkup,
and
the topic,
and now the final one,
the viewer mail.
The viewer mail. Thank you. Today's viewer mail comes from Alia Baker from Zamboanga City, Philippines. Obviously, everyone from the Philippines tuning out after hearing me absolutely butcher their city name. The person whose name I also can't pronounce says, I'm 12 and I have trouble taking a solid dick pic. I've tried all sorts of techniques and angles, but I can't quite get it to look how I want. Can you please help Mr. Reed? Firstly, please don't call me Mr. Reed because you're 12. It's creepy. Secondly, for legal reasons, obviously I cannot encourage a 12-year-old such as yourself to take a dick pic. That's highly illegal. Especially don't send me a picture of your dick if you're 12. That's, I could get into a lot of trouble. But for the sake of comedy, I am going ahead with this sketch. But what I can do instead is recommend some super cool teenage activities. That's right, I'm young, like you. Fortnite. Kids playing Fortnite. Skateboarding. Oh, yeah, skateboarding, yeah. This definitely sounds like things that pedophiles would say. Isn't that what the cool kids are doing these days? Maybe your parents recently divorced. Obviously, here's the sadder part of the sketch where I talk about your parents divorcing. Of course, maybe you're not actually 12 years old and you're actually an ashamed 30-year-old man with the equivalent penis of a 12-year-old. So shame on you. That's right, we're body shaming on the show, which is, I'm saying for joke, it's terrible to body shame. But this is your life right now. It's just a big car crash because you've got a small dick, because your dick is tiny and women don't love you. Or men, if you're gay. Or maybe you're into that kind of thing, small dick gay men thing. Shame on you. Boo, small dick man. But what I can recommend, assuming you are 30 years old and not actually 12, because that's treading a very fine line between, obviously, thank God this isn't like mainstream media, be taken off the air very quickly. What I can recommend is to shave that bush right back and basically angle your camera as if it were infused with your chest. That way you can get a really long shot and it'll make it look like you got a solid 12 inches there, buddy. As someone with a very small penis, it helps. Trust me. Actually, that's a lie. I got a massive dick. Insecurities coming out there. So thank you for your non-fictional viewer mail. If you've got a viewer mail you'd like to send us, email us at neverfapdeluxe@gmail.com. This has been a lovely show, I think. Obviously, breaking the boundaries. Oh, how could you, Mr. Reed? Check us out on Facebook, Twitter. What's the other stuff that I've got? I've got another podcast, The Writers Daily. Obviously, look after your mental health. Check out the website. Do all sorts of... Send a message. Castbox. Reviews. Make us review.